Hello and welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman, and in the background is Petey Freeman. He might come back. He's normally my co-host, but he seems to have other plans this morning. He was up here, he got comfortable, and then he left. But hopefully Petey will be back. He is a fan favorite, and he does help me. This is video 225. This is, I always want to say, a liberal YouTube channel, so people don't get blindsided. And between now and November 5th, this has been going on all summer, we on this channel are supporting the election of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in a big way. So it's September 20th, Friday, and please help me out. Subscribe and like, and even check to see if you're still subscribed, because I've gotten dropped from other subscriptions myself, so it happens. There's some good news that I'm going to be all over the map today. That's breaking. It broke about a day ago. In a huge turnaround, Kamala Harris's election odds just surged to a 4-point lead over Trump nationwide, according to the largest prediction platform, Polymarket. So I don't know how the numbers play out, but they say that is a shift of 12 points for Harris from just a week ago. And I want to mention something that I meant to mention before I even started talking about politics. This necklace was given to me by Teresa. Teresa and I became friendly through the platforms. She has a design platform. I will put that in my community section. But she sent me a text with some pictures of some necklaces and said, I'm giving these away. Would you like any of them? And I went, yes. So I got, I think 3 or 4. This is one of them. It's the first time I'm wearing it. I love it. Do you like it, Teresa? I think it looks great. Took me a while to find the right combo of clothes, but there you go. All right, here's something ironic. I just labeled this irony. The Florida U.S. Attorney's Office, headed by Mackenzie LaPointe, is leading the case against Trump's shooter. And the reason this is ironic is because this man, the attorney, is Haitian American. And that's my damn air conditioner. I forgot to turn it off. Let me turn it off. I'm sorry, I've done this once before. I apologize. I'm turning it off. And I'm coming back. What are you doing, Petey? He might be getting himself a snack. Anyway, this attorney who's going to be prosecuting the guy who had the firearms across the street from the golf course that they're saying was an attempted assassination. He was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and he came to the U.S. at the age of 16. And he also served in the U.S. Marine Corps, but it's hilarious. It's just, and he's the first, I think, Haitian American to be a U.S. attorney. So you just can't make this up, correct? All right. Now I'm going to move on to some pop culture, which I normally don't do because I have an interesting story to share with you. This has to do with the arrest of P. Diddy, who has like 5 different names. I'm just going to call him Diddy for the purpose of this video. So he was arrested in New York. Evidently, he knew this was coming, and he flew to New York. And they found out later they did find drugs in his hotel room the night before he was supposed to present himself. But that just kind of shows you how addicted he is. Now, some of the things he's been charged with, and they say there's a lot more coming, have to do with forced labor, racketeering, aka RICO charges, sex trafficking, which includes forced transportation to engage in prostitution, massive drugs. I mean, when they raided his house, they just found so much stuff. So massive drugs. They seized laptops, cameras, hard drives, thumb drives, surveillance system. There was a very elaborate surveillance system in his home. And then RICO includes people who aided, abetted, and helped Diddy arrange these parties. Now, people that are at the level of Diddy, that level of success with billionaire and yachts and homes, they just turn over the planning to a well-paid, I assume, a well-paid assistant. These parties, these freak-offs that Diddy calls them, sometimes lasted for days, 2 or 3 days. They just went on and on and on. He had intravenous fluids on hand because people would take so much ecstasy and pills, and there's a whole list of drugs, that they needed fluids for rehydration. I assume there was an expert on hand to administer the intravenous fluids. And then this whole thing with him includes, we don't know who yet, we can guess a little bit, Hollywood elites and hip hop elites, like big, enormous celebrities. And of course, there's people we don't know either. He cannot get bail. 2 judges in New York denied Diddy bail, and he is stuck in a very grim jail environment. I did a little research on it. He came out, I think before they took a phone away from him, I don't know, but he said he's going to sue Cassie Ventura, blaming her for his arrest, which is typical. We've seen this. We know a little bit about narcissism now, and we see how J.D. Vance and Trump blame. So P. Diddy is blaming Cassie Ventura. And he's on suicide watch, accordingly yesterday, that was claimed. And it is reported, I've seen some ex-inmates who've become like professionals, like legitimate people, interviewed, and they're saying that there are people within the jail, convicts, that would like to take him out. So he's being sequestered somewhere. But it's not luxury. It's not luxury. I don't even think he's allowed to go to the commissary. So it's kind of bizarre to think about someone with that kind of wealth and everybody waiting on him hand and foot, that is in a jail cell that probably has bugs and rats and infestation. So I've been kind of, and I have a story here I'm going to share with you that's like a personal story that's kind of wild that someone told me. I made a list of some of the people who may have been participants in been videotaped in sex acts, or people that are going to be called to be witnesses for the prosecution, that may have been victims. I'm certain that there will be sex workers that are going to testify. Rumor has it that before they got a grip on Diddy, he was making phone calls and threatening people not to talk. That's one of the reasons they won't let him out on bond, because he's going to try to manipulate and threaten people. So I just wrote down some names, okay? Attendees of the parties, enablers. We don't know yet, but I've been watching this whole thing for a while, And I'm not going to go into all the stories I've heard, but these are the names that probably are going to come out. And these people are probably very nervous. Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, Steve Harvey, Kris Jenner, Justin Bieber, who I think was a victim because he was so young when he was shipped out to Diddy's home. Usher, don't know. Usher, I think, was a witness to this, but we don't know. But Usher lived for a long time at Diddy's home. Mogul Russell Simmons, I think I said Steve Harvey, Meek Mill, and another older mogul, Clive Davis. And Diddy worked at one point, I think, for Clive Davis. Clive Davis discovered Whitney Houston, and he throws these giant parties, and he's really not controversial. Midlife, he came out and said he's bisexual. But all these people are either participants or witnesses, etc., etc. And the list goes on and on. I'm just mentioning a few here. Now, the story I want to share is, I think I've told you guys, I know I have, that in my past, I have been hired to work on awards shows as a stand-in, which actually you don't just stand. You do a lot of different things. You read off of the teleprompters, you improvise. Sometimes, I know I was there for rehearsal one year, and I did a presentation with Tom Hanks, who came in to rehearse. And I was up there at the podium with Tom Hanks, nice man, as you might have guessed. So yeah, there's a skill set. You have to be in the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA to do it. So anyway, there's a woman I worked with a lot over the years, younger than me. And I'm just going to call her Kathy, okay? I'm not revealing who she is. She's married. She's a very attractive black woman, and she works all the time in the industry. So she and her husband one day, so she told me this story about 2 years ago. I saw her at a job, and she just confides this story in me that she and her husband were taking a walk, kind of in the neighborhood where I live, because adjacent to me, there's some really expensive homes where big superstars live, Melissa McCarthy and all kinds of people. And as they were passing a home on their walk, a housekeeper came running out the front door, and she was hysterical, and she was yelling, "Help, help." And she walked right up to Kathy and her husband and said, "I think my boss died. I think she's dead in there." And they called 911. They stepped up to help the housekeeper, who was alone. And this was the home of a woman, beautiful woman named Kim Porter, that had twin girls with Diddy, and was one of his chicks. And then Diddy shows up in a limo, jumps out, and he thanks Kathy and her husband. He takes their phone number, and Kim Porter had died. And they reported that she died of pneumonia. Now, there are rumors that she may have been murdered and not really died of pneumonia. That Diddy found out that she was writing a tell-all memoir. So all I can say is these were rumors. So then, turns out she was writing a memoir. It was found like in the last week or so. I'm not sure of that, when it was found, but it was discovered. And it wasn't completed, but it was lots of personal things about her relationship with Diddy, the freak out parties. Evidently, she agreed to it, and wrote about it in this memoir. And then all of a sudden, Kathy and her husband are invited to the private memorial for Kim Porter at one of his mansions. I guess he had a place in Bel Air, California, which is super fancy. And so they went. They went to his house for this memorial. I mean, who wouldn't do that? And it was filled, I mean, filled with superstars. Mary Kay Blige and Jay-Z, Chris Rock, John Legend, anybody you can think of that's from that industry was at this home. And I guess Diddy was very nice and very friendly to Kathy and her husband, and he showed them around the house. He thanked them profusely for stepping in and helping in that moment. But what Kathy told me is that he showed them the bathrooms in the mansion, maybe not all of them, but the bathrooms that cost like $20,000 each. The bathrooms were so fancy. I remember her telling me this. And she just said that you turn to your right and you'd see Chris Rock, and you turn to your left and you'd see, Meek Mill, or it was just wild. And when all of this came down, I just said, this couple must be going, oh my God. Oh my God. We met him. We were right there. We were in the mansion. They don't know anything other than they were there at the moment Kim Porter was discovered deceased, and the housekeeper came running out. It was just some weird karma, and nothing came of this. They didn't become friends with P. Diddy. She just told me about this wild experience. So I had to share that with you because I couldn't stop thinking about her and her husband and the conversations they must be having right now. So with Kim Porter, this memoir that's not finished, and I don't have details on it, is being published. I don't know who has the rights to do it. The twin daughters have moved, I think, to their grandmother's home. This is stuff I'm not completely sure of, so please don't at me. But they did move, and they are sort of disowning Diddy, their father. They want nothing to do with him. They seem to be well-raised, fairly normal girls, and their two are very lovely young women. So now I'm going to move on. This thing is ugly. It's going to go on forever. A lot of people are going to go to prison. A lot of people, not just P. Diddy. And people are going to show up and talk and talk and talk. They've been afraid. I mean, this is about power and domination. And you don't say no to this guy. You didn't. Because he threatened. He blew up a car, too. Arson. Arson is one of the charges. Very dangerous guy who became a hip-hop mogul. So I'm going to talk about Trump for a minute. He was interviewed in Florida, and he was trying to straddle both sides of the issue of abortion, which he's been all over the map, but mostly, I'm proud of it. I take credit for Roe v, for overturning Roe v. Wade, blah, blah, blah. But now he's in Florida, and he's realizing this is a problem with him being reelected. So they said, are you going to vote for this 6-week abortion ban in Florida? So he comes out and says a bunch of nonsense. Well, I'm going to vote for something longer than 6 weeks. Well, that's not an option on the ballot. The dummy didn't know that. It's 6 weeks. You either vote yes or no. But now he's coming out, well, I'm going to propose. Well, the feeling is right after that, he pivoted and he had an interview with a Project 2025 person and said that the minute he's elected, he won't be elected, he's going to employ all the issues in the 2025 manual. So now he's all in. So my question is, did Project 2025 approach him and say, listen, buddy, either you're going to be all in with us or we're going to take all our money from you. We're not going to support you anymore. So all of a sudden, he's interviewing with Project 2025 and he's denouncing everything, and he did a total pivot. So I asked the runes, was Trump threatened by people from Project 2025 to embrace the abortion ban 100%? So I didn't do all 3 runes for my questions today because they were coming up pretty significant, and I didn't want to do a 45-minute video because they take forever to upload. But I got the answers. So I got the rune of possessions reversed. And it says, there may be considerable frustration in your life right now, from the trivial to the severe. That would be true. You, Trump, fall short of your efforts. You reach out and you miss, is what he did in Florida. He pissed them off. You could find yourself watching your gains dwindle, which is happening to him. And reversed, which I got reversed on possessions, you are being put in touch with the shadow side of this room, no doubt. And doubtful situations are abundant, Donald Trump, and they come in a variety of guises and forms. Do know that this is all coming to be and then passing away. Your situation is impermanent, meaning he's going to lose. All right, so the answer is yes. People from Project 2025 did come ringing his doorbell and saying, listen, buddy, we need to talk, or all your money's going away. You're either supporting 2025, Project 2025, or you're not. And I got my answer. I hope you find it interesting. They sat on him, okay? Now, the next thing, I'm going to bring up somebody's name that is a happy name, and that would be Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris for 10 years. And he is really working very hard to help her get elected, supporting her, and he is an asset, this guy. He has so much intelligence and appeal. Ex-attorney. I mean, he still has his license, but he's devoting all his time now to his wife and these issues. So he went down to Florida to speak to the people that live in the villages, which are older people. It's a kind of a high-end retirement environment. It's pretty famous, the villages. But it's known for being very conservative. It's flipping now, okay? It's flipping now. So he went down there and he made a speech, and he was an enormous hit. I mean, everybody loved him. It was off the charts positive. So I asked, because the rumor is out there, is Florida turning blue? And I picked one rune, and I got the rune of joy. The rune of joy and light. It's a fruit-bearing rune. It speaks of happiness, of things finally coming together. This is miraculous. And it says, when joy appears in your casting, you can be assured that a positive result that brings joy is in the offing. The rune of joy is emblematic of a new clarity and understanding for you and them in the current situation. And it's only positive. So that's an interesting answer, correct? Is Florida turning blue? I didn't ask that about Texas. I think it's a little premature, but I am going into Texas right now to talk about COLIN, ALLRED, who's running for the Senate, and he just landed a point or two ahead of Ted Cruz for the first time. For the first time. So I asked the runes, is COLIN, ALLRED going to beat Ted Cruz? And you know, Liz Cheney has come out to support COLIN, ALLRED bigly. She does not like Ted Cruz. And so they've become buds because he's a fairly conservative Democrat, but he's really for women and he's really for choice. Now, Cheney isn't a choice person, but she's wants to get rid of the whole Trump story. So she's all in with COLIN, ALLRED, and it's delightful. So the answer I got was, first I got two runes. The unknowable, which is blank, the blank rune. And it says blank is the end and blank is the beginning. I love it. Blank is the end of Ted Cruz. It's the beginning of COLIN, ALLRED. And because I'm asking about ALLRED, it says blank should be taken as exciting evidence, my favorite word, of your true destiny, which rises like the phoenix from ashes of what is called fate. And it portends a symbolic death. And I say that is Ted Cruz. The symbolic death is Ted Cruz. For ALLRED, it may relate to some part of his life that is no longer applicable, and that would be he moves to the Senate. Okay, and that's also the beginning, his beginning at the unknowable is the beginning and it's the end, but this is the beginning of COLIN, ALLRED. And the blank rune is said to represent the highest possibilities of human endeavor. And COLIN, ALLRED is a very honorable, trustworthy representative. Well, the second rune I pulled for this is fertility. And now I've got two runes that I pulled that speak of new beginnings. Now, let's just say if Ted Cruz would be reelected by a small margin, that's not a new beginning for Ted Cruz. The new beginning is COLIN, ALLRED winning, and we got the new beginning message in two runes consecutively. All right, so fertility is the intuitive part of our nature with an urge towards harmonizing in the sphere of personal relationships. It embodies the need for sharing, and he's very communicative, COLIN, ALLRED, and he's a very good speaker, communicator, really good, and he is an attorney. He was a football player. I don't know if you know that. It embodies the need for sharing. And the idea is that he's going to start pulling people together. It marks a time of joyful deliverance. It's a rune of great power. And it tells COLIN, you now have the strength to achieve completion or resolution, which opens your new beginning. It is the limitless energy of the seed. Goes back to fertility. That's the rune, fertility. And it is the energy of beginnings and new births. Changes in the offing, await your deliverance, COLIN, ALLRED. Now that doesn't mean not to send him money. I sent a little money to him. I don't have much, but I sent a little money to him. And this tragedy happened. I'm moving on now. This tragedy happened to a 28-year-old woman named Amber Thurman. It happened in Georgia. You've probably heard about it. Mother of a 6-year-old boy. She was a medical assistant. And she had a problematic pregnancy, and she took the abortion pill, but it did not get rid of all the tissue, and she went into sepsis, which is a horrible infection. And she languished in a Atlanta hospital for 20 hours, and they wouldn't do the D&C on her because they're afraid of going to prison. They're afraid of going, the doctors, the nurses, they're afraid of going to prison. So it was 20 hours before doctors performed a D&C to treat the sepsis, and she did not survive. This poor, beautiful 28-year-old woman did not survive, leaves a 6-year-old son because these politicians have ruled over what kind of medical treatment she gets. Not the doctors. They don't turn it over to the doctors. What good are the doctors now if they have to follow politicians, suits? You know, Lawrence O'Donnell devoted almost an entire show to this story about Amber Thurman. And he talked about his mother, who had, I think, 5 kids, and had the same thing happen to his mother, where she got treatment immediately and survived. But what I want you to know is that when Lawrence O'Donnell, this lifelong journalist and politician, etc., was telling the story, he stopped because he was crying. He could not help himself. That's how deep this is. So this woman's life was sacrificed. It's just hard to talk about, but it is activating the issue of choice. I prefer the word choice because it's everybody's individual choice whether they need to have an abortion. But choice is about the freedom to choose abortion or not, depending on your private situation, your family, your health. But that's how serious. So it's activated it, and it's enabling people to say, look, here's an example of why this is. So now it's, look at, I don't know when, but maybe 3 years ago, I said, women are going to die. Babies are going to die. It was so clear to me. They were going to die in their bathrooms. They were going to die on their way to the hospital, at the hospital. And now this story, this heartbreaking story, will activate the issue, and her name will live on. Had to bring it up. So I'm getting to good evidence, and I've got quite a bit. So I started with Doug Emhoff and his appearance in the Florida villages to a packed crowd, and he was a huge success, quite influential. And I think the attention that Harris Walls are bringing to Florida is creating this turning blue. So we love Doug Emhoff. He's a very powerful speaker. He's so appealing. Also, North Carolina, I'm sure you've heard about this, the candidate for governor, Mark Robinson, the big giant black man. There's a scandal that came out. Some crack journalist did some amazing research and discovered that a while back he was signed up to porn sites, and he liked watching transgender sex acts. He wrote it. They found his emails where he said he really enjoyed it. He called himself a pervert, P-E-R-V, to be exact. He talked about being in high school and viewing girls in showers and getting excited. And he wrote about this. They found a lot of writings, a lot of him being on the sites like 3-4 times a week. And now it's exposed. He's a pervert. The Black Nazi, that's what he calls himself, the Black Nazi. You know, the first time I ever saw him, I like recoiled. This is like one of the most horrible people I've ever seen in my life. And now it's all catching up with him. Well, he won't resign because that kind of toxic narcissism, they don't resign. They fight back, and he's claiming innocence. And this was all created by AI. No, it wasn't, but that's what he's saying. And he's saying things like, I'm not going to go into the details of what AI did. Like, he's above that. But the GOP wanted him to resign. He won't. But this is going to help Kamala Harris and Tim Walz win North Carolina. So keep an eye on it. He's going down. Nobody will touch him now. Trump will never speak about him, never shake hands with him. I know Trump called him, what did he call him? Martin Luther King, not on steroids, but twice. Like, he's twice of Martin Luther King Jr. Not so. But Trump, nobody will touch him now. He is truly disgusting. He thinks women should not be able to vote. I'm not kidding you. And he thinks slavery should be reenacted. And there's a quote that he said, I'd like to buy a few. Honestly, he did say that. I got so many hits when I put that on Twitter. Now, on to some cleaner news, joyous news. Endorsements keep showing up. This is good evidence for Kamala Harris. The West Coast Teamsters are endorsing Kamala. I guess the national Teamsters or the larger Teamsters will not. And people are going, why not? Why not? Why not? Well, I took a look at the guy who made the announcement, and he just looks like a sheriff from the movie Mississippi Burning. She's a woman and she's black. Okay, but the West Coast Teamsters, and they even met her on a tarmac to greet her. We know about Taylor Swift. Now Billie Eilish is brand new, has come out to support Barbra Streisand, John Legend, Spike Lee, Aaron Sorkin, who wrote West Wing, To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway, The American President, the movie. I mean, no one writes like Aaron Sorkin. Mark Hamill, Robert De Niro, Beyonce, her mother Tina Knowles, Kesha, musician, songwriter, think the song Timber, Cardi B, millionaire, billionaire Mark Cuban, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Liz Cheney, her father Dick Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Brittany Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' wife. Patrick hasn't come out. I heard that as a couple, they were supporting Trump, but now Britney's come out. And I bet that Taylor Swift they become really good friends. I bet Taylor had a really good talk with her. So she came out, good for her. Oprah and more and more and more. These are just some of the luminaries. And Trump got Ted Nugent and Potsy. I don't know, just these loser people. All right, Judge Cannon just got caught. And I've been saying this for a long time. She's on the payroll. They're in her pocket. They're whispering in her ear. They're telling her how to sabotage the case for the documents in Florida. Well, wahoo, they caught her. She has been accepting gifts and very expensive trips from Leonard Leo, the head of the Federalist Society, and she has not claimed the gifts or the trips like Clarence Thomas. So now we know for sure that her judgments that people were just scratching their head about in the documents case, one of the most serious cases, was corrupted. We don't have a clue yet what's going to happen to her or if anything is going to happen to her. Because Judge Roberts was discovered also, SCOTUS, Supreme Court Justice Roberts, they found emails where he was trying to manipulate the legal procedures or timing for Trump's January 6th indictments. So now there's proof. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, the justices are sort of like, you can't touch them. But when Kamala wins the House, the Senate, and the White House, she can do some major things with the Supreme Court. She can do so many good things that need fixing, like voting rights, enacting voting rights, and gerrymandering, and of course make a big difference in returning Roe v. Wade. So anyway, Judge Cannon, everybody thought she was crooked. She is crooked. She has been crooked. And I can't stand her. And just to let you know, Dr. Bandy Lee, who got vilified by Yale and a lot of people, for psychiatrist, an expert on criminals, violent crimes, etc. She's been doing weekly podcasts with the Midas Touch Network and just sharing a lot of great information from her vantage point. She actually said Trump is in a psychotic spiral right now. And if you've been watching him, which is hard to do, he's saying outrageous things. I mean, like incomprehensible. So is J.D. Vance, but Trump is like off the charts. Now he's saying, as of the last 48 hours, that if he loses, it'll be because of the Jews. Swear to God. So he's in a psychotic spiral, which means he's not going to get better. So I'm coming up to our quotes because all of that was good evidence. And I've got two quotes about politics. One is, you remember Groucho Marx? He's been gone a long time. He was really funny. I think I have quite a few mature subscribers, I'm guessing. And they know Groucho Marx. All right, so here's the quote. Politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and implying the wrong remedies. It's great, Groucho Marx. It's a mouthful. Politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. Then the next one was someone even older than Groucho Marx, the famous Will Rogers, who was, a big deal. There was a dark side to Will Rogers, and they made a movie based on him, but not about him, called A Face in the Crowd, with Sheriff Andy, believe it or not, Andy Griffith, early in his career, did this dramatic role. He played a character named Lonesome Rhodes. Lonesome Rhodes was the character, based on the dark side of Will Rogers. My grandmother knew Will Rogers because my grandmother was in vaudeville and she was kind of a big celebrity, and she played on the same circuits with Will Rogers. Knew him, liked him very much, and said to me, he was such a nice man, Carrie. He was such a nice man. And he played practical jokes. So this is a little thing about my grandmother knowing Will Rogers. Will Rogers said, he was also a humorist, there's no trick to being humorous when you have the whole government working for you. What a great quote, right? And he's right. He's correct. He was correct, Will Rogers. Anyway, you might want to look into renting A Face in the Crowd. It has a younger Walter Matthau. I think you know that I knew Walter Matthau. I spent 3 months with him. My favorite celebrity ever that I ever met in my life. Loved him. And an actress named Patricia Neal. It's an entertaining movie. It's dramatic and it's dark. So it's a great movie. A Face in the Crowd. And Andy Griffith was nominated for an Academy Award. I don't think he won. So there you go. There's a lot going on. I'm finally going to do Patreon tomorrow, and I'll be back. So have a good weekend. I did go 45 minutes. Damn, I thought I shortened this. So it'll just take a little bit to get this uploaded, and I'll see you soon. Hold a good thought.